Lake Mead may be set to be at its shallowest levels in recorded history.
The Bureau released its 2- and 5-year projections earlier this year, showing levels hovering at about 1,000 feet.
Las Vegas, a city defined by risk, where fortunes are made or lost on the spin of a wheel, the turn of a card, where illusion and boldness are woven together beneath a relentless desert sun. But move beyond the garish glow, beyond the endless spectacle, and you'll find a gamble unlike any played atop green felt. A gamble buried out of sight, beneath the parched earth of southern Nevada. Right now, beneath Nevada's blazing surface, something massive and unprecedented quietly hums. A feat of engineering, not for entertainment, but for survival. It's not another casino, not a shimmering resort, none of the marvels that have drawn millions from around the world to this improbable oasis. Instead, it's a single, desperate lifeline. A tunnel, 4.6 kilometers long, drilled deep into the bedrock beneath Lake Mead. A $1.4 billion emergency project carved out beneath the largest reservoir in the United States, once a symbol of abundance, and now a symbol of risk. Engineered not for show, but for necessity. Some call it a crisis drill, but for the 2.3 million people whose futures depend on every drop drawn from Lake Mead, it is anything but a drill. Las Vegas, the city famed for making the impossible look effortless, now teeters closer than ever to the brink. Lake Mead, that vast blue promise that made this city possible, withers steadily. Its receding shores reveal relics of the past, each one a silent warning. Yet, above ground, normalcy prevails. Tourists bask, fountains leap, lights glitter. The illusion, for now, endures. But the true story runs in the shadows below. A hidden world of tunnels and machinery, the last line of defense between life as usual and an unimaginable future. And so, the great question that hangs over Las Vegas becomes ever harder to ignore. What happens when a city built in the desert faces the edge of its water? The edge of illusion. Las Vegas exists because of water. Every flash of neon, every lush golf course, every endless pool rests atop borrowed time. For decades, life here seemed to defy limits. Growth was relentless. Tourists poured in, suburbs sprawled, towers rose from the sand. The spectacle needed water. Water for cooling, cleaning, drinking. Water for recreation and fantasy. And all of it, every drop, flowed from a single, fragile source, Lake Mead. Once it seemed inexhaustible, stabilized by the monumental Hoover Dam. Plans drawn up during an era of optimism bet that the Colorado River would always provide. In that faith, Las Vegas became not only a city, but a living challenge to the very logic of the desert. Billions were invested, dreams multiplied. Water poured into neighborhoods, resorts, championship greens, and endless amenities, even as the city sprawled outward, testing the patience of its water source. But the confidence was always more illusion than certainty. Look beyond the lights, and the cracks show through the facade. Nightly, fountains applaud the city's bravado, but each splash is alone against a shrinking account. Every shimmering pool and lush lawn is a marker of borrowed time. The simple, critical fact: Las Vegas thrives on a single supply, Lake Mead. As the lake drains, everyone, from casino moguls to city officials, asks the same question. With the lifeline waning, how long can the magic last? Engineers and managers see the data. Environmentalists track the falling surface. Boardrooms fill with anxiety as models reveal a grim trajectory. Less water enters than leaves, and drought scorches the forecast for years ahead. The city's outward confidence is now matched by an inward urgency. Because water isn't just another utility here, it's the very engine that transforms a desert into a spectacle. It's what turns the impossible into habit. The real game? To keep the illusion afloat as long as possible. But with every new projection, with every further inch of shoreline lost, the margin of error grows slimmer. Lake Mead. The mirage shrinks. Decades ago, Lake Mead was a feat of American ambition. Born of the Colorado River and the Hoover Dam, it was celebrated as the grandest reservoir in the nation, a liquid treasure chest nestled in the desert. Its creation fueled the rise of Las Vegas and provided hope for the entire Southwest. Camping, boating, swimming, its shores bustled with recreation. On summer days, families crowded the beaches, marinas thrived, and the lake stretched confidently across the red-brown desert. But over time, something changed. Not a sudden disaster, but a slow, relentless decline. Winter after winter, snowpacks in the Rocky Mountains, source of the Colorado's flow, grew thinner. Summers lengthened and intensified, relentlessly parching the land. Year by year, runoff into the river declined, and less water reached Lake Mead. The cumulative effect? What once seemed infinite contracted. The shoreline pulled back, marinas became stranded, boat ramps ended in dust and cracked mud. The bathtub ring, broad, pale stripes of mineral deposits, climbed ever higher up the exposed rock, a stark visual witness to loss. Sunken boats and forgotten artifacts emerged, their secrets forsaken to drought. In just the past 2 decades, Lake Mead has lost over 70% of its capacity. This is not a minor fluctuation. It is a fundamental transformation. Where there once was plenty, scarcity rules. The point of greatest concern is known as dead pool. That's when the lake's level drops so low that the Hoover Dam can no longer release water downstream, and none can be drawn for cities that depend on it. No water flow, no power generation, no security. The spectre of dead pool, once unthinkable, has forced planners to act, and residents to face the vulnerability beneath decades of confidence. Forecasts from federal agencies now warn that, absent improvement, the lake could approach record lows by 2027. The sense of urgency grows, echoed in every conservation campaign, every buried pipe. For Las Vegas, a city of over 2.3 million people facing a single, shrinking source, the question is stark. What happens when you outpace your miracle? The gamble, building the third straw. Faced with stark realities, Nevada acted. Traditional water intakes, the so-called first and second straws, were installed decades ago, designed for an era of high water and brisk river flows. But as Lake Mead fell, their ability to draw water scrambled upward toward uselessness. The solution? An audacious high-stakes bet: build a third intake. Drill a tunnel through 4.6 kilometers of solid rock beneath the lake, reaching the lowest possible point from which water can be drawn. A massive infrastructure project, years in planning and execution. Hundreds of workers, boring machines as tall as houses, miles of reinforced tunnel burrowed in near darkness. The price? $1.4 billion. Skeptics balked. Some compared it to another casino boondoggle. But the logic was unassailable. When every household, every business, every drop runs through a single supply, the cost of inaction is far higher. The third intake was envisioned as a kind of insurance policy, a final straw that could draw from the bottom, even as other cities around the reservoir faced looming shortages. The work was hazardous, marked by water leaks, pressurized systems, pockets of natural gas. Crews persevered because the alternative was unthinkable. Finally, after years underground, the tunnel was complete, a new, deep-lying conduit capable of pulling water even as Lake Mead approached crisis levels. Engineers didn't build the third straw thinking if the day would come, but when. It was not a guarantee of unending supply, but a window, a little more time to adapt, conserve, innovate. It bought years, not decades. And that borrowed time is now running. The cost of water, $1.4 billion and counting. Consider the math. 4.6 kilometers of tunnel, painstakingly drilled under a massive, stressed reservoir. Cost? $1.4 billion. To outsiders, the price might seem staggering, an incomprehensible sum for a singular, unseen solution. But to those who understand the stakes, it's the price of continuity, of staving off immediate disaster. Las Vegas's existence depends on this pipeline. Every home, every school, every casino now ties back to an intake buried deep below what once was the water's heart. It's not just taps and bathtubs riding on this infrastructure. It's electrical power from Hoover Dam, livelihoods in tourism, and the flow on which downstream ecosystems still depend. But here's the catch. Even $1.4 billion can't create water that isn't there. The third straw cannot pull water from an empty bucket. That's why so much effort goes into conservation and adaptation. Lawn removal programs pay homeowners to swap grass for desert landscaping. Fines punish wasteful watering, especially during the heat of the day. Hotels clean and recycle the water in their fountains and pools, searching for new efficiencies. The math remains resolute. Less water arrives each year than is needed downstream. And as projections turn bleak, out to 2027 and beyond, planners face a sobering fact. The odds of Lake Mead hitting critical lows, even Deadpool, are no longer remote. The billion-dollar tunnel is a bridge, not a destination. It is a payment for time, uncertain, precious, and finite. And like all borrowed time, it comes with expectations. Every year gained must translate into deeper efficiency, stronger policy, and harder choices. There is no room for complacency in a system balanced this tightly. Budgets will grow, infrastructure will expand, and yet the underlying equation remains unchanged. You can spend billions to move water, store water, stretch water, but not to create it. That reality presses against every decision, shaping a future where cost is no longer measured only in dollars, but in limits. And eventually, the question shifts from what can be afforded to what can be sustained. Because when the water runs thin, even the largest investments begin to look small. Underground secrets, the system beneath our feet. Most who visit Las Vegas never consider what lives beneath their feet. Miles of reinforced tunnel, networks of intakes, pumps, and monitoring stations. The city's silent, painstaking defense. In the darkness, engineers and technicians tend to machines that pull from the lake's deepest pockets. They monitor pressure, temperature, and flow. Remote sensors collect and relay data to centralized command rooms above. These tunnels are not just feats of engineering, they're proof of vigilance. Crisis drills, once mere bureaucratic exercises, are now real rehearsals for loss. Plans are refined, contingencies invoked. Teams prepare for failures, not just of machinery, but of the entire system. Suppose the third straw fails, or suppose Lake Mead falls so low that not even it can draw water. Such questions are not theoretical any longer. They are now central to Nevada's emergency protocols. That is why new restrictions on water use tighten every year. Drought response programs run on repeat. Planners and politicians game out scenarios that once seemed far-fetched. Supply interruptions, staged rationing, or, in the starkest imagination, the need to move people. The tunnels beneath Las Vegas serve as confession. The city's surface brilliance is built on continual struggle below, with stakes that could not be higher. Innovation and adaptation remain the watchwords. Maintenance crews walk the tunnels constantly. Security teams monitor for sabotage or breakage. Automated systems scan for leaks invisible to human senses. In these depths, every drop is tracked, guarded, and valued like liquid gold. Even the smallest anomaly, a fluctuation in pressure, a whisper of seepage, triggers investigation. Nothing is dismissed, because nothing can be afforded to fail. Redundancy is built into every layer, yet everyone working below understands the uncomfortable truth. Redundancy is not the same as security. It only delays the moment when there are no more backups left to deploy. Above, the city pulses with confidence. Below, the system operates with quiet urgency, aware that its purpose is not permanence, but preservation. And in that distinction lies the tension that defines the entire enterprise. The deeper the tunnel's reach, the clearer the reality becomes. Survival here is engineered, not guaranteed.
The final straw, when resilience meets limits. Above ground, life plays on. The lights don't dim, fountains still dance, the pools are busy, the hotels roar with commerce. The city still sparkles, though the edge is real and encroaching. For each gallon called forth from that billion-dollar tunnel, a clock ticks. Every flow through the intake is a countdown, not to inevitability, but to possibility's outer edge. Because you can dig as deep as you want. Eventually, if the reservoir goes dry, all the pipes in the world are useless. Lake Mead was never designed to be infinite. It was a calculated backup, a hedge against bad years, but the good years have vanished. River inflows dwindle, prolonged drought stalks every forecast. Every agency from Nevada to California plans for the endpoint, when the water is no longer enough. And it isn't just Las Vegas that risks thirst. The ripple effect is gigantic. Phoenix, Los Angeles, farming valleys throughout Arizona and California all rely on the Colorado River and its great reservoirs. As Lake Mead drops, agriculture suffers, turbines at Hoover fall silent, and entire economies face new uncertainties. When water disappears, consequences multiply. Agriculture contracts, electric grids lose backup, business models evaporate, migration questions become urgent. Planners float new strategies: cloud seeding, storm water harvesting, more aggressive recycling, deals to secure water from other states. Some advocate for capping city growth, others for controversial desalination. But beneath every proposal is a shared truth. No amount of innovation can magically refill a shrinking reservoir overnight. The challenges aren't limited to science, but reach into policy, politics, and even psychology. In community halls, residents debate the city's future as keenly as they track the level of the lake. Elders remember when Lake Mead seemed limitless. Now, every new generation is taught conservation and reminded that the old sense of plenty has vanished. And with that shift comes something deeper than policy, a cultural reckoning. The city must redefine what it means to thrive in scarcity, to grow without excess, to endure without illusion. Resilience, once measured by expansion, is now measured by restraint. The question is no longer how to sustain abundance, but how to live within narrowing bounds without losing identity. At some point, adaptation stops being a strategy and becomes a necessity, quiet, constant, and unavoidable. And when that moment fully arrives, the true test will not be engineering, but endurance. A race against limits. The billion-dollar tunnel isn't a triumph, it's an acknowledgement, a recognition that the era of easy abundance was always temporary. Each passing year of record-breaking heat, each missed snowstorm, each failed monsoon is a tick on the clock. How long can this last? What comes after the last drop is drawn? These are the very real, very urgent questions now baked into the city's daily life. Even as the third intake buys time, that time must be used wisely. Plans aren't simple. Every future scenario, ranging from modest decline to deep crisis, is on the table. No technology can replace vigilance, and no amount of protocol can summon new water when the last reserves are spent. Other cities of the Southwest know the story well. They monitor Lake Mead's fate with growing anxiety, fully aware that what happens here will echo in their future. For now, the city adapts, learns, and looks for new miracles. But the margin is closing. The illusion of control begins to thin, replaced by a quiet understanding that nature keeps the final say. Conservation becomes not a policy, but a culture, etched into habits, infrastructure, and expectation.
Every gallon saved is no longer symbolic. It is survival measured in increments. The question is no longer whether change is coming, but whether adaptation can outpace it. And beneath it all lingers a harder truth. Some limits, once reached, do not bend, they break. What follows may not be a sudden collapse, but a slow unraveling, where choices narrow and consequences widen. Time, once taken for granted, is now the most finite resource of all.
The closing current. What unfolds in Las Vegas is more than a tale about pipes or tunnels, more than a price tag on an underground marvel. It is a mirror held up to any society that bets endlessly on growth, believing resources have no limits. The machinery below Las Vegas doesn't guarantee salvation. It only guarantees another round in the race, a chance to adapt, to innovate, to reconsider old assumptions. But every tunnel, every pump, every heroic act of engineering is also a warning. A future built on endless extraction is a mirage. And when the mirage fades, the consequences are real, immediate, and fierce. When the water stops, so do the illusions. That's why the reckoning at Lake Mead isn't just Nevada's fate. It's a reminder for the entire West and beyond. Las Vegas may discover new tricks. The city may survive longer than anyone guessed. But time, like water, is running thin. And in the quiet running beneath the strip, there's a lesson for us all. The future belongs not to those with the biggest dreams, but to those who recognize nature's limits. When the water is gone, reality rises from the depths. The lights don't last forever. The silence that follows is not only Nevada's to hear, it is a warning, a call to reimagine what it means to build and to endure in a world of finite gifts. Because when the last drop goes, everything changes.